the military intelligence were following Dr. King. 1,699 man-hours were devoted to surveillance of Dr. King in the last 3 months of his life. And so he understood that he was a target of our own government. In fact, of course, there's the scene where J. Edgar Hoover tells Dr. King to commit suicide. So he knew that they wanted him dead. And so it was special for him to say, "I'm not fearing any man." And then in the book by Jim DiEugenio, entitled "The Assassinations," there is an important piece that describes Malcolm X on the day of his murder, where Malcolm received a call from the FBI. Well, he received a call, one of many calls that he had received throughout the time that he had been targeted as well by the counterintelligence program. And the voice on the other end of the phone said, "Today is the day." And Malcolm would have told his wife to pack the children and let's go back to Georgia, or by this time, of course, you know, Malcolm had friends all over the world. He could have left the United States altogether, but he did not. He kept his appointment at the Audubon Ballroom, and we all know that he was taken away from all of us. So these people that we call our heroes, that we look up to, they overcame their fear. So I didn't really have any reason to remain afraid. And when I thought about them, then my fear dissipated completely. I didn't care anymore about whether or not I got crushed by the Israeli warship in our boat. I didn't care if water filled my lungs. I really just didn't care, because at a particular moment I understood the value of life. And it's the way we live our lives. If tomorrow my time comes, then what will people say? What will be said about the way I lived my life? So, well, that was then. And I guess if there's a message in that at all, it would be that many people do things or don't do things. They fail to do things because they're afraid. We should not allow fear to control our behavior. We must do what is good, what is right, and what will advance a cause that is greater than our individual self. So I got back on the boat again. And I tried to get to Gaza. And this time, the second time, the Israelis kidnapped us. And I was in prison for 7 days. What was it like? It was prison. And the call had gone out that the children of Gaza needed coloring books and crayons. So I had gone around to all of my friends and collected money and asked for coloring books and crayons and Crayola paints and all that sort of stuff. And taking a page out of Dr. King's book, when he wrote a letter from the Birmingham jail, I decided that I would write a letter from an Israeli prison. And I said, basically, that if Israel, which has the world's 4th most powerful military, is afraid of the children of Gaza being able to color, then Israel is a failed state. Then I tried again, but by land to get into Gaza. And I got into Gaza, and what I saw was life, love, and dignity. Dignity, this is after a military onslaught that is unimaginable. And in fact, in one place, there was Mahmoud Abbas's house, and it was right across the street from government buildings. And the government buildings had all been demolished because, remember, when the Palestinian people had the opportunity to vote in a free and a fair election, they voted for Hamas. And so all of the government buildings were destroyed, but Abbas's house was left standing. And so I saw collective punishment. I saw the results of F-16 helicopter gunships, depleted uranium, but the people of Gaza still lived, and they loved, because on the night that we arrived, there was a wedding. Now, when I went to Libya, when I decided that I would take a group, a delegation of investigative journalists to Libya, all of that I just described went into my reason for going. I wasn't afraid, you know, so I wasn't going to be deterred. But what I understood was that there was a possibility, and that possibility was great, that what the people in this country and the global community were being told was not true. And so I wanted to go and find out, and I really wanted these investigative journalists to go and do what journalists do: ask questions, record. Much of the video that you've seen on the internet is a result of the work that those journalists did. Many of the articles that you may have read is the result of work that those journalists did. And sadly, as we speak, not only is Gaza being pounded by the Israeli military once again, but Libya is being pounded by the United States and NATO forces.